Hey, Jenny.
Hi. You have the ability to let people in from the waiting room, Kristen?
I do. Do
Hey
we
guys,
want to start admitting them already or wait?
Oh, I already let people in.
Oh, okay. Okay, then. I will too.
Oh, wait. Jeff is joining. How's everyone doing?
Really good.
Are you still on the East Coast, Kristen?
No, I'm home. I got back at I don't know, my time's all messed up right now, but like 3 hours ago. Oh my God, I totally want to go to sleep. I can't even tell you right now. But yeah, no, it was travel during COVID is super weird.
Yeah, it's stressful, right? I
Yeah.
just did a road trip with Asia because she had been wanting to go to Oregon. She wanted to do a road trip up the coast and camp. So I thought, okay, that's something we can do responsibly. Stay in our car and camp.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is stressful every time you stop and people don't follow the rules and whatnot.
Yeah, well, and in the South, man, people are just like, I mean, the only masks I think I saw were like masking their chins, you know? I'm like, that's really not how it works, you know? It's really not how it works. But yeah. But I was also in a county where they have like, I think like 116 cases total. So, maybe, I don't know. It's all good. It was really lovely to see my son and I missed him like crazy. So, um, I'm, you know, my younger son is like, oh, I don't want you to hug me yet. I'm like, oh my God, you are the one in the hot spot. Like if anybody is likely to have it right now, it's much more you than me right now. No, but I was like a surgeon, man. I had like, latex gloves and I wiped down my chair everywhere I sat. I wiped it down. I'm like, I don't care. People looked at me like it's crazy. I don't care.
Yeah.
My son was just eye rolled, like roll away, son. I want to be here for you to roll your eyes at. Anyway,
Yep.
so have you seen? So how's everybody else? Shalom, how are you doing?
doing fine. Just juggling lots with the kids and everything.
Yeah.
Just
It seems like all the parents are like losing their minds of like how, and then everybody else is bored.
fine.
There's like,
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Lots of home's tough. My biggest challenge is just making sure the kids are not in front of video games all day. So it's not really that big of a deal. I was furloughed, so I only worry about the kids right now and worry about getting my job back later.
Yeah.
So with the kids at home come September or August even, I don't really know. Yeah.
what grades are they in?
What's that?
What grades are they in now?
I have a rising 6th grader, middle school, and a rising 3rd grader.
Oh.
Yeah.
So have you heard for sure that it's not it's not reopening?
Yeah. Well, for the first 6 weeks, it'll be distance learning. Definitely.
Just 6 weeks?
That's as far out as they've said.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. How wonderful is this?
Yeah, you know what? I have to tell you, it's like, they were saying that we had 20 people signed up and we have 49 members already signed up tonight. Yeah, so it's definitely grown.
This is my first meeting, so
Welcome.
Welcome. This is our first Zoom meeting.
First virtual one, yeah. So we don't have our speakers on yet. So thanks everyone for being so punctual. You guys are amazing. Serious Democrats in here today.
Yeah, I'm used to nobody joining the Zoom meeting until like right the minute it starts, not sooner, not later, just. I posted the agenda for tonight in the chat, and if anybody has any questions on viewing the chat or functionality of Zoom, now would be a good time to ask.
Yeah, one thing, it would be really nice if you guys would please put your names on your where you know, if you run the cursor over your face, there's like the three little dots, and if you click at the three little dots in the upper right hand corner of your face, you should see where it says rename. And if you could please put your name there, that would be really nice for us to know who you, and when you're speaking, we'll know who you are. So that'd be great. Thank you. Just for a Zoom norm. Oh, I like your background, Michelle.
Nice.
Kristen, I have to introduce you to my new campaign manager. Are you ready?
Yes.
Oh.
Aw, Pumpkin.
His name's Sebastian.
Aw, he's adorable.
He's 8 weeks today.
Aw. I love all the people getting like kittens and puppies and stuff because they're home all the time now, right?
My neighbor's cats had kittens, 10 kittens.
Wow.
And so I've been waiting forever to adopt him. My roommate adopted one too. So, with 2 kittens.
Aw.
Yeah.
I got 2 kittens recently, and in a meeting earlier today, one of them decided to climb the screen behind me, so it was like right there in the background.
Nice.
Definitely made Zoom meetings a little more entertaining.
Okay. So, Jenny, have you heard from either of the speakers tonight yet?
Yeah, I've been in touch with them, so we'll just go ahead and wait a minute until they join.
They aren't the first thing on the agenda either, are they?
No.
Yeah, we'll wait for, at least for Dave, who is at the top of the agenda.
Here come the people.
I feel like we're having a little contest. Who can admit them first? Jenny.
I'll let you do it. Sincere.
It's like whack-a-mole. I'm like, in. This is great. So welcome. Those of you who just logged in, we're just waiting for our first person to get here to get started, and we'll get started hopefully very shortly. But we're super excited. This is our first virtual meeting, so thank you so much for being here. We're excited to see so many great faces.
Hi, everyone. This is Mark Tiernan. I hope everyone's doing well.
Hey, Mark. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and I think we can go ahead and get started. I just posted the agenda for tonight in the chat. If you have trouble accessing that, just go ahead and send me a note or post a note to everyone so we can, one of our board members can reply. And I see that our speakers have just joined us. But first, we're going to start off with a quick update. This is our first Zoom meeting, so I'm very excited to see you all here. And we are also changing our membership structure because of the COVID-19 crisis that we're in right now. And I'm going to hand it over to our membership chair, Shalom, to tell us about that.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming. The club as a whole, the board membership, discussed our current fee structure under these conditions of the COVID, and considering it has been a hardship for most people during these times, we've voted to make an option to defer your membership fee if you are experiencing a hardship and want to renew but can't afford to right now. We would be more than fine with you guys choosing the option to defer payment. I think we have it at 6 months at this time. So please don't, think that the financial hardship of the COVID issue right now should stop you from becoming a member or staying a member. Thank you.
I can just say it is a 1-year dues waiver. It's not really a deferment, so you don't have to pay it later. It's just a waiver, and it's at your option. You don't have to tell anyone that you're having a hardship. You can just go in to join, and there's a box there that you can just select. And you can also select half price if you feel like you can afford to pay something. So we have 3 options: full price, half price, and no price. And it would be good for the whole year. And we'll make a decision as a board in December about whether to continue the policy or not.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
And I just posted a link in the chat to sign up to be a member. Our meetings are open to the public. You don't have to be a member to join and listen to our meetings, but you do have to be a member to vote. So you'll see on the agenda today, we are voting on whether or not to support Prop 15. So if you would like to vote, you do need to sign up to be a member to do that.
And in fact, you can do that right now before we
do
get
it right now.
Sign up right now. Take that link, sign up. Half price, no price, full price.
And first up, to get moving with our speakers, we have Dave Cortese with us, who's going to give us a quick update on his campaign. He is one of our endorsed candidates this year, and we're very much looking forward to hear how he's doing. Dave?
Thank you very much, Jenny. And first of all, it's great that you're here. Looks like I'm unmuted, right? It's great that you're here. It's great that we're able to do this virtually. Not at all as fun as it used to be in person. And whether we were in a room somewhere or out at a barbecue somewhere or whatever, which would be that time of the year, right? So that said, thank you so much. Also, and moreover, for being really the first major Democratic Party organization to endorse me in this race. After that, as some of you know, it became a 7-person primary, and there were multiple Democrats in it. The top 2 is now me and Ravel, who is in second place, was also in second place in the club endorsement process, if you recall. But we did finish 12% ahead of her in the primary, which is a lot in a crowded 7-person primary. It's a lot to have 34% in that kind of a primary versus someone else's, 21, 22%. So we finished in a good place, which means we started relative to the general election in a good place. But after that endorsement, and I think most of you know this because so many of you are active in Democratic Party politics locally and even statewide, we went on to get the California Democratic Party sole endorsement with a lot of help from delegates here, and a lot of those delegates, I think, were really influenced by folks in this club in a positive way to support me and my candidacy. So I owe you a thank you for that as well. Later on, we ended up with the California Labor Federation endorsement after a relatively early endorsement from the South Bay Labor Council. It took many months later to get the statewide endorsement, but that has all come together well. And it's just affirmation and validation that I'm the Democratic Party candidate and I shouldn't say just, that's major validation. But it is so, and it's become validation in the district, like I said, at District 15, which I think fundamentally, not just in our party, but overall is a progressive district, that, you know, we are in a very, very good position in this race. Fundraising has gone well, just like it did in the primary. You know, the June 30th totals aren't out yet. That's the quintessential mid-year report that everybody worries about, but we will report well over $700,000, and I know my opponent circulated something that said $250,000, but that's been pretty much par for the course throughout the race. We've been able to raise money. Obviously, that's not easy to do during a pandemic, but I wanted you to know that that's going well. What we really, really need help with going forward is field work, and of course that's different now. And all the more reason we need help from people who are connected to other people in neighborhoods and communities. And I know Alex was going to join the call, our campaign manager. We have a great field campaign manager, Eddie Alvarez, and we have just a bunch of folks, you know, working on the field side of it that can do quality conversations with your neighbors, with friends, with people who may not know me as well as you do. Allie Hughes, for example, people that you may know from, again, from local party politics, are really good representatives of this campaign, excellent representatives of the campaign. Let me just close by saying what else happened since the primary. This race all of a sudden became something different than what I thought people thought it might be. You know, Dem on Dem, two people who had campaigned pretty progressive platforms. Certainly when you saw us in the club endorsement process, that's what it looked like. And now it's really changed quite a bit. You know, my opponent has opposed Prop 15 very publicly, has, you know, really sought out the endorsements of the two most conservative members of the San Jose City Council, went to Sacramento and sought out the endorsement of by far the most conservative member of the Senate, Senator Glazer. It is, you know, basically said, I'm the Chamber of Commerce candidate now. And, you know, whatever the Chamber of Commerce wants is suddenly what my opponent wants. So I don't say that because to turn my 5 minutes into, you know, a browbeating of opponent or anything like that. There may be some people on this Zoom that support my opponent. What I'm trying to say to you is that the race has very clear battle lines now, much different than when we first appeared before you. So I hope that also validates you, all of you in the club, at least in terms of the supermajority vote that you took to endorse me. That, you know, I think I've stuck to my values throughout. You can count on me to do that the rest of the way, and you can count on me to do that in Sacramento. But we will need your help. It'll be a battle right down to the finish. So thank you, Jenny. I know I used my 5 minutes up, and I'm very grateful, you know, for all your support.
Thank you very much, Dave. We really appreciate you coming and speaking with us tonight. And I see that there's a request in the chat about how we can support and a response there. So if you're interested in helping volunteer, you can look at the chat there for the link. Next up, we have Mary Celestin from San Jose Strong, who will be speaking for 15 minutes. So we can split that time between speaking and Q&A. And Mary Celestin is the founder of San Jose Strong. She's a rising senior engineering major at Harvey Mudd College with goals to reinvent the modern day stage. She's also a musician, fantasy author, and STEM curriculum developer teacher. In her free time, Mary enjoys hanging out with her friends and her family, listening to music, and going on long walks. San Jose Strong is a grassroots platform to reinvent San Jose for and by the community, where vacation and visit platforms like Visit San Jose serve as spark notes for tours. We're the whole book for residents. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be talking at you for the next 10 to 15 minutes just to talk a little bit about San Jose Strong and what it is that we're doing, and the goals that I see for it, as well as just its history and its origins over these past 6 weeks. It's been pretty hectic. And so, yeah, Jenny did a brief overview of who I am, but just to run that back, my name is Mary Jessie Celestin, and I'm the founder of San Jose Strong. I'd say from all of the hobbies and interests you've heard Jenny mention about me, the biggest center point that ties everything together is that I'm all about world building. So the imaginative process of creating something new in the space that you're in, and whether that's me being passionate about fantasy writing or me being passionate about engineering and reinventing cities through infrastructure, like everything falls under this umbrella of world building for me. And so the origin story of San Jose Strong, before I dive into our structure, our end goals, our mission and vision statement, and where we see things going for our end of August launch, the origin was that I made a guide to activism 6 weeks ago. It said, San Jose, let's get to work, a guide to activism in San Jose, that went viral on my Instagram account for the San Jose community. And I realized that there was a really large need. What prompted me to make this guide was I was just overwhelmed by the oversaturation of information and just all of the calls to action on a national scale surrounding the uprisings for Black Lives Matter. And I'm passionate about cities. So I love San Jose. So I just thought, let's distill all of these topics and make a guide that's centered on our community. I also live in downtown San Jose. And so I was on the front lines for a lot of those protests. And at City Hall, I live a block away from City Hall. So where a lot of people were really confused about what was happening and seeing different images of what was happening on the media, I was there. And when people would say, oh, I don't feel safe to go downtown, I don't feel comfortable, I'd say I was having a great time at City Hall with amazing protesters and members of the community that were all there in solidarity. It was incredibly powerful and peaceful. And I don't know what the news has been showing, but that's not what's been actually happening downtown at City Hall. And so when this guide went viral, I started getting 50 to 100 DMs a day in my Instagram of people just trying to figure out, like, where are the protests? How can I get involved? I'm a medic. I'm an artist. I have these skills. And so I really realized that there was a strong need in San Jose, and I started thinking more about some of my visions for city infrastructure and development. And what started as just an online platform with some of my friends has now grown onto a full-blown organization. We have over like 150 volunteers on a server that I've organized. We have all of our like solidified committees. That's been a lot of my work over the past couple of weeks. Across our social media platforms, we have like over 7,000 followers across all our platforms. And so it's been very exciting to see everybody come together. But just to talk a little bit about what San Jose Strong is and its vision, to Jenny's wonderful summary of me, where you have tourist platforms like Visit San Jose as the Spark Notes for tourists, we really want to be the whole book for residents. And so the idea is that when you come, if you move to a city and you're new to a city, you can come to our platform and get plugged in to the culture and community at place. And so we have a dedicated programming and website team that I'm very excited for, that we've been working to launch our official website. We currently have a website that I run and manage, but I'd make the comparison of a flip phone to an iPhone being the current website to the upcoming launch. Like, that's the comparison I would make. And it's going to be having categories for businesses, organizations, local government, initiatives, public services, and then our San Jose Strong in-house projects and committees. So some examples of awesome committees that we have at work. Actually, right now I'm missing a committee meeting with our mentorship committee and their development for program for high school and college students. We have our homelessness and housing committee that works directly with the Batman of San Jose. If you don't know him, you should. We do have a Batman in San Jose. He's 19 and works to protect the unhoused in our community. And so we do research for him and help support all of his efforts. We have like a Walk for Solidarity, which started when this Asian couple was being harassed by members of the community with awful xenophobic statements surrounding COVID-19. They felt unsafe going outside on trails, and someone DM'd me about what we could do, and now Lana, she was the person who DM'd me about it. Now she runs monthly walks for solidarity to bring community members together to make sure that people feel comfortable walking on trails. She's also on the mentorship committee. She also launched our swag merch, which is being launched soon. And so we've been doing a lot of really awesome work. I think some great things to showcase, like this weekend, I'm super excited. We're hosting a music festival that's centered on all Black musicians. There's also an art auction of all awesome Black artists, and we're raising money for Raising the Bar, which is an awesome Black-led initiative to support foster care youth through communal housing, and also like mentorship and support, and just a really, really great framework. And so those are just some like spark notes of me dashing all around the place of some of the stuff that San Jose Strong is up to in-house, but we're really passionate about not reinventing the wheel. Like, there's amazing stuff happening in South Bay that's already, people have been doing this work way longer than I've been alive. And we really want to have a process that's invested on researching what's already existing and just plugging people together and making all the connections. We want to be that conduit of information. And whenever there is a gap, we want to step in to fill it. If people are existing efforts and they want more bodies, like we're a pretty youthful group of students who are super passionate about getting involved, and we'll step in to support those efforts. We really want to amplify existing work. We additionally also really want to make sure that we center any conversations we're having, whether that's policy work, with our work with unified school districts to get cops out of schools, or whether that's work talking about what defunding the police looks like. We want to center it on whoever's being directly impacted and make sure that whatever it is that we're pushing forward, it's actually what the people who are being impacted or being the targets of policy want. And we want to make sure that those policies or community actions or community initiatives are centered on what community members want. So, whenever I get DMs from people pushing a petition or pushing a call to action, my immediate response is always, did you talk to the families? Like, did you talk to this person first? Like, you're saying justice for so-and-so. Did you talk to them? Like, is this what they want? And I make sure to talk to directly whoever is being impacted before we promote anything on our page. And we have a strict vetting process for that. And so those are some of the ethos behind San Jose Strong. But for me, I really see, because I think I'm almost out of time, but I think a closing note for me is that I see San Jose Strong as the technological framework to instill cultural shifts to empower communities to be ready for physical redevelopment infrastructure change. So I'm somebody who's really passionate about redeveloping our cities. The way our cities are built are not sustainable. I'm a nerd for sewage infrastructure. Like, you can talk to me about a bunch of engineering things that I'm passionate about, but if I'm coming in as an engineer saying we really need to just like physically redesign this space, I want to make sure that the communities that we're changing things for, like, they're part of the process. We're designing infrastructure and tech and smart city development based on what the community wants and needs. And so I see San Jose Strong as a platform to create that social infrastructure to allow communities to be empowered to make those decisions themselves. And then any experts who want to come in and plug in, they just have to do what the community wants and what the community needs, and bring their expertise to support what everybody's already doing, and empower the communities to even just be the experts themselves. Like, that's the end goal. And so that's just a little bit about San Jose Strong and how I go about approaching problem solving and solutions. And yeah, my team, we really big on promoting psychological safety and making sure that everybody feels comfortable. If something's going on at home, I want to know about it. I want to make sure that you're good. If you need me to drop off some cookies at your house, like, I'm down. And just really building a family within our team that's really supportive and empathetic. And yeah, so that's just a little bit about me and San Jose Strong. And thank you, Jenny, for letting me talk to this group. And thank you guys for being here and listening.
Thank you so much, Mary. And I'm going to open it up. We have a few minutes for Mary if anybody has questions. I know I was very excited to see San Jose Strong's posts that were very clear calls to action. They very concisely explained issues and made it very easy for people to get engaged with the political process immediately, and very specific to our local issues, even planning commission or city council and whatnot. So if you don't follow them on social media, I highly recommend that you do.
I can plug all the socials in the chat so everyone can know where everything
Yeah,
is.
that would be perfect. So if you have a question, you can, I believe you can unmute yourself or raise your hand or post in the chat.
Mary, I have a question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
So I know you're in college now. Like, where do you see San Jose Strong going when either you return to Harvey Mudd, or where do you see yourself going professionally post undergrad? I'm curious.
Yes. Also, it's so good to finally see you
I know,
virtually since we've like called and texted before.
I know.
Hi. Hello. So a lot of the work I've been doing for the past few weeks and for like the upcoming month is building a lot of the infrastructure and the protocols and all of the lists of the contacts and what the committee team lead roles are going to look like and all of that infrastructure, so that we can be in place so that, you know, when I go back to college and when a bunch of other of our team members go back to school or go back to teaching or work picks up and we leave this odd moment of the pandemic, can still like have space and easy commitments. I think like the commitment goals I've been thinking about is like 1 to 5 hours for like committee team leads throughout a week, and making sure that all the infrastructure is there so that they can do that. And so that's like where a lot of the brunt work this summer is going, so that I can still be leading San Jose Strong alongside like my coursework and my schoolwork. I'm also, this has not been finalized yet, but I'm hoping to have a fellowship. I'm working to have a fellowship of high school students kind of working directly under me through an internship that will hopefully be paid for, so that they can learn some of those leadership skills and organizational skills, and also delegating all of my tasks at the same time, and be a part of that like committee team with all the team leads and active volunteer members. And so that's some of the work being done so that San Jose Strong can still be a fine-tuned engine that's not me working on it part-time, which is essentially what I'm doing right now outside of my current job. And for my personal goals, I often like would see myself going back to the Bay. I definitely want to speed up so I don't cut into time too much. But yeah, so I'm super interested in being in project management and development, and potentially getting my master's in civil engineering, or like structural engineering and like project management. And I also probably see myself back in San Jose. Like, I know I go to school in SoCal, but I really, really love San Jose. And definitely see myself back in the Bay Area, doing work. There's also just a lot of great companies and work here to start to tag team some of those visions. And yeah, so there's more to talk about, but I definitely don't want to keep on talking and cut into more time. So I'll pause there, but can definitely deep dive further.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, we do have Kristen and Michelle with their hand up, so if you want to be very brief.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna
start with Kristen.
I'm gonna be super quick. So I'm a high school teacher, and I teach at a school for kids who've been 6th through 12th graders who've been expelled from their school districts, and I'm really interested in actions that teachers can take to disrupt the prison pipeline. And I did scroll through the page and looked and didn't see anything directly on that. Just want to ask if you're doing something about that, what, and if not, how can I help?
Yes. I'd say to that direct question in terms of like what we've been involved in, my like immediate response, we should also talk off of this chat, but is some of the work with the San Jose Unified Equity Coalition, and some of those long-term goals that we have for redefining safety protocols in the public school systems, I think that work can be really cool. I also want to hear LaToya speak. And I know she's got awesome opinions to say. But yeah, so that's like my one plug I'll say, but we can definitely talk off chat too. And I'll DM you my email.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Michelle?
This is super exciting. I really love what you're doing. I love everything about it. I think you're a really engaging leader as well. I have a number of, we can talk to you offline. I have a number of high school students from Palo Alto. I think most of them are girls of color, although probably not Black girls. But girls of color who are very interested in getting involved. I mean, they contacted me because they were very interested in getting involved in an internship that would have anything at all to do with sexual violence. And I don't know if that is a topic that you're going to be dealing with. I think they'd probably also be interested in everything else you're doing, and they probably just want to, you know, be your best friend because you seem amazing. But there is a lot of interest in that topic among young women. I find, particularly how Black girls and women are treated in this system. And so I don't know if you plan on having that issue or organizing around that issue, but I'd love to be able to put them in touch with you.
Yes. Yes to all the things. I will also direct message you my email, and we can definitely discuss.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to hear from LaToya Fernandez, who I'm very excited to introduce. I met LaToya a few years ago and know her from her work with YouthHype, but she is doing about 1 million things and is truly a very powerful, positive force in our community. She is an educator, activist, and youth champion. She's dedicated to empowering students around equity and justice. LaToya is a community advocate who is passionate about creating platforms for youth. Just one of these platforms is YouthHype, a community-based organization that empowers youth in San Jose from marginalized communities to rise up. As its founder, she facilitates workshops in self-esteem, confidence, awareness, and identity. YouthHype also actively participates in numerous community events while pairing empowerment with activism, agency, and leadership. LaToya is also the author of the book, Truth, an Empowerment Guide for Youth and Allies, a book that educates and empowers youth with their self-confidence and identity, navigating social justice issues, and establishing and maintaining healthy relationships. LaToya also hosts a youth empowerment podcast based on the book called Truth, an Empowerment Guide for Youth. So with that, I'll hand it over to LaToya.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. It's great to be on here with Mary. I love it. Mary, I just want to tell you, I'm proud of you. I'm with you. I support you. And I just, like, you fill me up with joy. You know, what you're doing, the leadership, the initiative that you've taken, the way that you're leading the youth, the way what you are doing is so revolutionary. Like, kids are going to be reading about this in history books, and your name is going to be there. And so I just want to, you know, I want to shine that light on you. I'm really proud of you. I really am. So, but a little bit about me, you know, I feel like I know a lot of people in here, or you at least know a little bit about me. Educator. YouthHype is my youth empowerment nonprofit. And I'll just jump into what we're doing right now because you already know the communities that I'm usually targeting in terms of working with. So right now we have 3 major things that we're working on. One campaign, and to echo what Mary is saying, is everything that we do is driven by the youth. So any campaigns that we have or initiatives or programs that we're doing, it's them that are coming up with the program or the idea, or just like, hey, like, we're interested in this. How can we make that happen? And pretty much like they just tell me what to do. So I just use whatever my resources and network are to get them to their bottom line. And eventually, like, they'll just run the whole organization. Like, that's what it is this is an organization that just should be in our community for the youth, run by them, like, not even attached to me. So that's where we're trying to get with it. So right now we have a campaign going on called Hype to Speak. And it's a campaign where we are getting the voices of 1,000 youth out here to share their stories about what they've dealt with in the education system, the changes that they want to see, and also what they want to replace the juvenile justice systems. And so we're starting with youth in San Jose, but it's also open to youth in the county. And when we get these 1,000 videos, we are going to go around and project these videos all over the city. Because after, you know, the onset of the revolution and us making our demands around defunding the police, where the youth were involved, nothing happened. Right? Nothing happened. There was no change. And so the great thing that happened with our youth is that they were like, all right, well, I guess it's up to us to figure this out. And so we're backing them and rallying behind them. And so just getting their voices out there. One of the most common things that I hear from my youth is that no one out here cares about them or what they have to say. And they say that that is apparent because of the conditions in which they have to live, the ways that what they have to deal with when they go to school. All of those experiences prove to them that they're not cared about, and they're not heard, they're not listened to, they're not valued. And we know that that's not the case for all of us. We know that that's not true for all of us, but on a systemic level, that is true. So with the 1,000 voices, we're really amplifying the voices of the youth. And so when we have these actions with them saying their truth, we're taking a step back as adults and just letting them lead the way with their voices. And so far, some of the major things that we've heard are our Black youth specifically saying that their experiences in the education system here have not been great, and they haven't had the resources to even manage some of the PTSD that they experience from some of these situations. And so that's huge, right? Like with all the budget cuts and all of that, and us having lack of mental health resources, lack of healing spaces, and our kids, especially with San Jose being majority Latino students, so we have the Black and brown communities here that are on the other end of systemic racism and not getting the resources they need to process what they're dealing with. And so putting their voices forward is going to be huge. We have another program, our creative entrepreneurship program, and we do that in partnership with Intuit and Adobe. And so for those of you that said you have high school students, and same thing, Mary, anybody, any young adults in San Jose Strong, this is a great program to teach young folks how to start their own businesses, how to manage, and gives them an opportunity to create really just socially conscious material that they can sell, they can make money from. So last year when we did this, our youth created these amazing like mugs and pop sockets and cell phone cases, but they had these really powerful messages on it. And so, I mean, there's continued to sell out. It was really powerful. They felt like finally my voice is out here. So we have that program going on. And then we also have a juvenile justice system impacted coalition. So some of you might have heard about the youth rally that we had back in June at the county building. Shout out to Supervisor Cindy Chavez for helping hook that up with the space, and everybody, and people even here in this room that supported us, that donated, that showed up. I mean, it was so powerful. The youth were like on fire. They're like, these people came here for us. And it was just like, yes, you know, and it was just so beautiful. So we want to continue to like create those spaces for them. But the other thing about YouthHype is that like the marching and rallying is great, but we really want to train the youth on how to be sustainable in the movement. Same thing like what Mary and San Jose Strong is doing. How do we set them up to be involved with intention, but also create the support for them to do that as they're processing it? Because understand, some of these kids are coming into the movement and they want to be involved, but as they're getting involved and also learning more about the why and the what and the how, they're getting triggered by some of this stuff. For some of these kids, we just saw Los Gatos this past weekend. For some of these students, this is the first time they're hearing some of these racial slurs. This is the first time they're experiencing, police brutality or witnessing it. So it's also training them on being involved, but also providing support to heal them and lift them up after experiencing being involved and taking in all of that energy, right? Because we don't want to exploit children either. So that is like a huge, huge thing for us in terms of supporting. So we have on our website the Young Activist Toolkit, and based on that, we run young activist training programs as well. Everything we do is free, and when any youth take classes in our program, they get paid. Each class is about 45 minutes to an hour, and the youth get paid $20 to take each class. Really trying to build that incentive and show them that we're invested in their future. And so those are the big initiatives that we have going on now. And then I just want to add on to that and just bring some awareness. Oh, can you guys hear me now? Okay. So I just want to bring some awareness now to the revolution space regarding some other things. And that is the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just feel like I have to say it in every space that I'm in. But the community came together and we were all fired up and we were all excited. But what happens is what always happens. The agendas, like nothing happened. They changed 0 policies. One of the few major cities to make any changes, by the way. That says a lot to us about our elected officials and how much they're willing to risk. The second thing is that we've once again, as a Black community, allowed ourselves to get corralled into others' agendas. And what I've also noticed is that there is a huge division between the Black and Brown community. And I always knew that that existed under the surface because I've had Mexican community leaders confront me about why I'm working with their children. And why do I think I'm qualified to work in this community, even though I'm not Mexican, right? So, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, whatever. Like, this isn't a community that I grew up in, so I have no problem explaining myself. And I also have had no problem doing the soul work and the shadow work that it takes to be culturally responsive to this community and to truly be a champion and ally and advocate for this community and to put myself on the line. And so seeing in the movement, this division between the Black community and the Latino community is so disheartening, because what's happening is it's like, there's this like, oh, we're not going to come support Black people because they're saying Black Lives Matter and they're forgetting about Brown Lives Matter. And then there's this like, well, we're not supporting the Latino community because they never want to stand with us and say Black Lives Matter. And so like, this is where we're at again, San Jose, Santa Clara County. And I know many of you have seen this repetitive cycle. It has to end. And the system wants us divided. And we're all smart enough to know that. So for us to perpetuate that, it's not right. It's just not right. And we shouldn't do it. And when we see other people doing it, we have to speak up and speak out. And we have to find ways to build alliances like this, bringing Black women into this space to talk, like what y'all are doing, holding this space. This is wonderful. Like, thank you. This is beautiful. This is what has to keep happening. Because when we're saying Black Lives Matter, and I actually like to say Black Power, Black Pride, because Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe make me feel weary. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I want us to speak life to what this really is, which is like Black power and Black pride and Black people feeling like they can exist here, fully expressed. So when we're saying Black Lives Matter and we're saying these things, I want to just clarify that we're not saying other lives don't matter, but it's just that when Black lives matter, then all lives truly will matter, because we have seen that we are still the only community that does not have equal rights across the board. And I'm not saying that our Brown community doesn't experience that, because, oh my gosh, you certainly do. However, there are still tables that are available to you because of this model minority perspective. And also because there is that just having lighter skin, being physically passable. Like, that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not that there has to be this division, and it's not that we're black people that are fighting for Black Lives Matter saying that brown lives don't matter, but straight up, what we need from the Latino community right now is for y'all to stand with this and say, like, we stand for Black lives in this city and in this county. And understanding that when you're saying that, you're not discounting your people either, but you're including us. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to just share that with everyone as well, because we can't lose this momentum, and the Black and brown unity, it's paramount. And then everyone that wants to be an ally, let them be allies. Let's not exclude people. Let's not exclude people because they're white. Let's not exclude people because they might have a different understanding of things than we do. Let's have dialogue with people and try to understand where they're coming from. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and everyone has a reason why they believe what they believe and feel what they feel. And that's something that as a young activist in this community, I had to learn, right? I see Reverend Moore on here. He's somebody that's, you know, had a couple of conversations with me and just mentored me around like listening to people, coming to the table and understanding where people are coming from, and understanding the strategy, and understanding, you know, the empathy piece of things. And so if we can start really getting that message out to our people that are on the front lines, we can start taking a more humanistic approach to this whole movement. And then it won't just be a few months where we did something cool. It'll be like the year that we elevated our city and our county. So I'll stop there and open up for questions.
Thank you so much, LaToya. And if anybody has a question, if you can raise your hand or post in the chat.
Me, pick me.
Okay, Dia. Or unmute.
Yeah, sorry. So LaToya, it's like, I don't know how I didn't know this. I feel like I've known you for at least a couple of years now. What inspired you to write your book? Where did that drive come from? And do you have, you know, ambitions to write another based on what you've been seeing, you know, what's been going on? Because I feel like everyone's signing book deals right now. Every time I look at my Instagram, someone just inked a new book deal, or, you know, some movie deal or something. Anyway, just some thoughts.
That's so funny. But you know what? They took writing out of school. So I'm just like, yeah, you know, everybody needs to write a book. That's like the new standard of like, if you can write, like publish a book and see how people respond to it. But yeah, so what inspired me to write Truth was I thought, I'm not going to be around forever. And I know that I've been called to mission to be an ally and advocate for the young people. And if I were to die right now, what are the gems that I would leave with them? What could I actually leave behind rather than the moments that we've had? Because yeah, I know I'm a powerful speaker. Like, I know I'm loud and I've got that power, but I don't just want to leave that behind. That's like me. That's like not something tangible that they can take with them. I wanted to leave something that they could take. And so as I thought about that, I was on an airplane ride going to Connecticut to visit my family. And I just whipped out my laptop, and in 7 hours, I wrote the book. And that's pretty much it. Like, I wrote the book. I dropped every gem that I could about what it was like, you know, what it's like as a student, all the different things you go through. And I speak directly in this book to Black students, brown students, white students, allies, educators. Like, this is what you can do. You know, this is how you can be an ally. I speak to young boys about how to treat the girls in their classrooms, how to be allies. I talk about relationships with the kids, like being people's friends first before getting romantically involved, and like even highly encouraged, don't date, don't do it. Like, you know, but really thinking about the experience as a kid, and like, if I could go back and tell my younger self these things, what would those things be? And then I partnered with another educator out here. His name is Ellis Stevens, and he is amazing. And he did all of the artwork. As a Black man, he's been arrested 44 times throughout his life, held at gunpoint multiple times by the police, all for like, just like being Black. And so he had to dive into his childhood and he did all the imagery in the book. And so, I mean, it's really powerful stuff. We both had to go to therapy after it was all done. But it's a powerful piece for youth and anyone that's working with youth. And then what I'm doing added to that is, and you'll see that on the YouthHype website next month, are video snippets where I'm performing, because throughout the book, I also quote my rap songs because I'm a hip hop artist and I rap about all the things that I speak about. And so I perform these songs and these video snippets and do breakdowns, introduce students to vocabulary, very similar to Flowcabulary, but like more Bay Area. And so that, and then giving the kids an actual call to action in the end of the video so that students, so that teachers can have these quick little 15-minute assignments for kids in our community that'll get them engaged and hyped up. So yeah, and then in terms of second book, yeah, so I got my degree in media writing. I love writing. I write all the time. I write sci-fi novels, and I'm just like wild with that stuff. So my second book though is based on an article that I actually just published a couple weeks ago called Angry Black Woman, A Letter to All Women. To all women. And it talks about the stigma that comes with being an angry Black woman, and the connection between us and all other women from different races, and how we can all come together and be allies. And it also will encompass the stories of Black women, brown women, and white women who have noticed these things and who are allies. So that's my next project.
Thank you so much, LaToya. And we are running behind on our agenda, so we're going to have to go ahead and move on to our next speaker. Maybe one Zoom round of applause for LaToya.
And I did put a link in there, or the link in there, and if you just put that in your browser, it has all the updates that are going on that I just shared with you, and links to those programs if you want to get your youth involved. Perfect,
LaToya, thank you. And I'm definitely looking forward to introducing my daughter to, she loves Flowcabulary, so we'll have to check out the Bay Area version. So next up, we have Megan Abell, who's here to talk to us about Prop 15, the School and Community First Initiative. She's the Director of Advocacy for Tech Equity Collaborative. She brings extensive experience in building novel organizing programs from the ground up. She comes to us from Common Sense Kids Action, where she developed and launched a mobilization program to engage parents in advocacy around tech issues that affect their children, like cybersecurity, screen time, and tech addiction. Prior to her work with Common Sense, Megan was an early employee of Airbnb Public Policies team, where she co-founded their first organizing and mobilization program, a unique initiative to deploy traditional grassroots organizing tactics within a tech company. Her initial organizing model in San Francisco has now been replicated by Airbnb in markets globally. That work builds on her more than 6 years of experience as an organizer and campaign operative for unions, issue advocacy campaigns, nonprofits, and candidates. And we're grateful to have you here, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me. So the organization that I work for, Tech Equity Collaborative, is a nonprofit. We do work across the Bay Area, of course, including in Silicon Valley. And our goal is to mobilize tech workers to be allies in the struggle for a more equitable Bay Area economy. And so we do a lot of work to try to educate and engage tech workers to be part of that mission, since many are not very civically engaged. And one of the things that Tech Equity does is support the Schools and Communities First campaign to pass Proposition 15 on this November's ballot. We're just one of many organizations that are part of that coalition, but the campaign selected me to speak to you all tonight, and I'm really grateful to be here. I actually do have a little presentation to help us walk through the provisions of the measure, and my hope is to make that presentation relatively brief and leave plenty of time for Q&A from you all afterwards. So if I can just go ahead and share my screen, we can get started with that. One moment. All right, can everyone... Can everyone see my screen? Is that working? Thumbs up? Great. Perfect. So as I mentioned, we're here tonight to talk about voting yes on Proposition 15, and hopefully your club will endorse the measure, and also you all will become active as volunteers and supporters as well. But in order to get us to that point, we need to first talk about the provisions of the measure and how it will affect your community on the peninsula and in the South Bay. So the most simplistic bare bones explanation of Prop 15 is that it will require commercial and industrial properties that are worth more than $3 million to simply be reassessed every 3 years. Meaning that we want corporate and industrial properties to pay fair market value on their property taxes. And the money that we raise from this fair market assessment and taxation of commercial industrial properties will raise about $12 billion every single year statewide for schools and local government services. The split between that revenue will be 40% going to public education. 89% of that 40% goes to K through 12 education, and 11% goes to community colleges. And these funds are distributed in alignment with the already existing law of the local control funding formula. So we're not changing how schools are funded. All we're doing is giving them desperately needed revenue. We're just giving them an injection of funding through this measure. And that'll help to pay for things like school nurses, counselors, librarians, smaller class sizes, maybe even some, toner for the printer to print out worksheets, which if you have kids in school, always seems to be in short supply. On the local government side, 60% of that $12 billion that's raised every year through Prop 15 will go to local government services. So that includes things like libraries and parks and rec, senior services, public health services, affordable housing and homeless services, public transportation, and so much more. You're probably curious about, for this $12 billion roughly that we're raising every year across the state, how much of that actually makes it into your community. And the Bay Area region will receive about $4.61 billion of that $12 billion per year. So it's a pretty sizable injection of revenue. 94% of the revenue that we're raising through Prop 15 will come from just 10% of the wealthiest commercial landholders in our communities. So it's really the biggest and most wealthy landholders that are paying the largest proportion of Prop 15. For those of you all who have been around in California for quite some time, you might remember Proposition 13 from back in 1978, which allows homeowners to pay taxes based on the purchase price of their property rather than fair market value. And it's important to note that our proposition, Prop 15, protects your Prop 13 provisions for all residential property. So it will not impact homeowners or renters in any property used for residential purposes. So when we're talking about Prop 15, we're not talking about homes of any kind. Apartments, mobile homes, assisted living facilities, et cetera, are all continue to be protected and receive the benefits of Prop 13 from back in 1978. Our proposition, Prop 15, only affects commercial and industrial properties. It also protects all agricultural property. So again, our proposition, Prop 15, doesn't make any changes to the protections and benefits that agricultural land receives on their taxes. That will all be left out and left alone on our measure as well. So again, it's just the commercial and industrial properties that are affected by Prop 15. Our measure, Schools and Communities First, also provides a benefit to small businesses. New tax breaks through Prop 15 will help small businesses and farms by providing a tax exemption up to $500,000 on fixtures and equipment. So in rural areas and agricultural areas, those small businesses are going to be, buying things like tractors or irrigation systems, and they now receive this huge up to $500,000 tax benefit on that. And, for the businesses and restaurants that are probably more common in your neighborhoods, that's going to be things like fixtures and equipments that they use to, run their business, their ice cream machine or what have you. For businesses that own their property with less than 50 employees, these types of taxes, these gross receipts taxes, are entirely eliminated. So that's a huge benefit as well to the smallest businesses in California. It's also important to note that the revenue that's raised from Proposition 15 is totally up to your local control. So it's not the state who is deciding how you spend this money. It's decided at the local level. In cities, counties, and school districts, these funds are set as unrestricted funds, so you're able to decide how to best spend the money in your community. If road repair is a huge priority, that's where the funding can go. If sheltering homeless people is a huge priority, that's where the funding can go. So it allows our local communities to be really flexible and responsive to these uncertain times in terms of how they're spending this revenue that we're raising. It's also important to note that there's strict accountability measures within the measure. How revenue was received and spent as a result of Prop 15 must be published so that the public is aware of what's going on with this funding and is available and easily understood. Like I said at the start, Tech Equity is just one really tiny organization in a coalition of dozens upon dozens of organizations. We've got over 800 endorsing groups and individual leaders and elected officials. And you can see on the slide here a broad coalition of organizations, including teachers unions and equity groups, all across the board, progressive organizations that are supporting our measure. So I'm going to leave it there because, like I said, I want to spend more time answering your questions than just blabbing about this. So you've got kind of the basics of the measure. So now I'd love to be able to take your questions about how this is all going to work.
So I see. Thank you, Megan. I see we have a question from Frank. Frank, do you want to unmute yourself? And
hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. So the question I wanted to know, I actually have two questions, but the first question I want to know is there any idea on a roughly percentage basis as to what large corporate property taxes are expected to increase under Prop 15?
I don't know that I have those numbers in front of me, but I think what's important to think about when it comes to the property taxes that would be collected from large corporations is that we're just asking corporations in California to pay their taxes the same way that they do in other states, to pay fair market value. One of the main criticisms that you'll hear from people that oppose this measure is that it will hurt the economy, that businesses will leave California. And that really is not a valid argument because the tax is based on property and businesses need property in order to run. I don't think that Chevron is going to relocate all of its refineries that are conveniently located on the coast to receive oil and then refine it. They're not going to be able to move that inland to Oklahoma, right? Every single gas station that operates is not going to be able to relocate. Disneyland, who's a major beneficiary of our current property tax loopholes, is not going to relocate Disneyland, right? So the fear that businesses will leave California is really unfounded. And studies have supported this when they've looked at what the potential effects of Prop 15 are. In addition to that, this huge tax break that we're providing to small businesses There's a lot of evidence to show that this will stimulate the economy and allow small businesses to thrive, especially under the challenging circumstances that small businesses face currently. So this is really about rebalancing a really broken property tax system where the wealthiest corporations are the biggest beneficiaries.
Thank you. So my second question, assuming that there is a large spike increase to large corporations as a result of Prop 15, is there any provision to allow them to index the change over 1 to 3 years, or to allow them to ramp up to the difference, or do they just have to deal with it?
Yeah, so there's not a ramp up period in terms of their rate being tiered up, but there is a ramp up period in terms of implementation for this. So we've written into the measure plenty of time for local assessors to hire the property tax assessors that they'll need to do this reassessment. And we've budgeted funding for assessors to be able to do that as well. And for them to do the training that they need to do to get this up and running. So the reality is we're not going to go overnight from all of these businesses paying far below market rate in property taxes to suddenly they're hit with this huge bill. It's going to take, estimates are around 5 to 10 years for all of the commercial properties that are subject to Prop 15 to get reassessed. So we'll see this money kind of slowly start to phase in as we get all of these corporate properties up to market rate assessment.
Great. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Other questions?
Yeah, we'll do one quick question from Helen before we need to move on to a presentation of the resolution. We are running about 10-15 minutes behind.
Got it.
I'll be really, really quick. I work for the city of San Jose for our council office. I believe my council member endorsed Prop 15, Sergio Jimenez, but just wanted to point out a fact. Isn't it about $70 million the city of San Jose will receive from Prop 15?
You know, I don't have the city funding allocations in front of me, but it is going to be a sizable injection of funding. I think I mentioned that for the Bay Area region, it's just under $5 billion annually that our region will receive. And I could get back to you on exactly what San Jose's portion is of that, but I don't know.
I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to help you out, Megan. I'm trying to make a point because San Jose was facing a budget shortfall of about $70 million. So if we had Prop 15, we would have had the money there to cover that budget shortfall this year.
Yep. Well, I thank everyone for your time. I know you're running behind on your agenda. I'll just leave you with one thing as a close. We're going to need dozens and dozens of volunteers to do the outreach necessary to get the word out about our measure. So if you're interested in volunteering or even just learning more about what we're working on, you can go to yes15.org, yes15.org, to sign up to volunteer, learn more about the measure. So I would encourage you to get involved.
Thank you very much, Megan. We really appreciate you coming out and speaking to us.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
And if you want to hang around for a second, if anybody has additional questions, you can perhaps handle them in the chat while Adia presents our resolution to support Prop 15. I will be posting the text in the chat here too. And Adia, just let me know if you want me to share screen with the text.
Either you do or I do. You want me to do it?
Sure, yeah.
Do I have permission?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so our board resolution of support for Prop 15, which was called Schools Communities First, funding after 2020. Whereas for 4 decades, school districts in California have experienced underinvestment and devastating cuts, causing California schools funding to fall behind, resulting in fewer services and resources for students and teachers. Whereas the lack of adequate local funding is the result of an inequitable tax system in which corporations and wealthy investors do not pay their fair share in property taxes. Whereas loopholes in California's property tax system allows a fraction as major commercial industrial properties to avoid regular reassessment and use tax schemes to hide change in ownership. Whereas these loopholes in tax schemes result in millions of dollars going to corporations and wealthy investors rather than schools and local communities for essential services. Whereas experts estimate, sorry, I need to move it. Whereas experts estimate that Prop 15 in California Schools and Local Communities Funding Act of 2020 reclaims $12 billion in property tax revenue every year to ensure that our schools and communities have the resources to educate all our kids and the services to support all our families. Whereas Prop 15, California Schools and Local Communities Funding Act of 2020 does not affect property taxes for homeowners or renters because the initiative exempts all residential property. Whereas academic researchers at the University of Southern California, USC, have identified that the vast majority of the reclaimed revenue will come from just a fraction of large properties. Whereas California schools are falling behind, ranking lowest in the nation with the largest number of students per teacher and the fewest counselors per student. Whereas per pupil funding has declined from the top 10 in the nation to 39th. Whereas the top ranked state spends $10,259 more dollars per pupil to educate their children than California spends. Our average in the state's about $9,000, by the way. Whereas the measure invests up to $4 billion annually for K-14 schools to ensure that our kids receive the world-class education they deserve. Whereas California should be a leader in innovation by educating the next generation of students to compete in the global economy. Whereas Prop 15, California Schools and Local Communities Funding Act of 2020 guarantees funding to all school districts over and above Prop 98 funding and following the local control funding formula to all students in need in all districts. Whereas the measure also provides billions in funding yearly for cities, counties, and special districts and locally controlled revenues for affordable housing, parks, libraries, emergency responders, and essential workers, health and human services, libraries, public infrastructure, and much more. Whereas the measure incentivizes the development of residential units and provides more funding for communities to invest in affordable housing, whereas the measure provides new tax incentives to spur new investment in small businesses by eliminating the business personal property tax on equipment for California small businesses, whereas the measure also exempts small business owners whose property is worth less than $3 million, whereas the measure levels the playing field for businesses that already pay their fair share in our communities, whereas now more than ever, in light of the national and state economic crisis precipitated by COVID-19 global pandemic, California schools, community colleges require additional revenues for the continued provision of education services to the children, youth, and families of California. Therefore, be it resolved, the Silicon Valley Democratic Club endorses Prop 15, California Schools and Local Communities Funding Act of 2020, a measure on the California ballot in November 2020. And as you know, this is something that is near and dear to my heart, something I've been working on for over a year now on behalf of the California Teachers Association and our students and educators here in the Valley and across our great state. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. But I want this to pass unanimously. That is my hope. I turn it over to Jenny. Jenny, do you have any?
Yeah, we can
make a motion
put it up for discussion.
Okay.
I see a comment from Shalom. Shalom, did you want to?
Hi, I just, with the recent discussions with City Council and their budgeting, from what I heard earlier, there aren't going to be any restrictions on the money. So I want to know, like, how do we know it will get to the schools and not just be redirected to purchase, some crazy equipment for the police department or something like that? I want reassurances.
I was going to say, so the money is actually earmarked. If you had a chance to actually sign the petition, it was all laid out. It was like the largest petition I've ever had to get signatures on. It was 6 pages front and back. So all the details are online if you want to read it at schoolscommunitiesfirst.org. Like, you can read the whole thing. But the money is earmarked specifically for schools, for public safety, for our community hospitals, for libraries, for Parks and Rec. It's not just willy-nilly, and it can't just be reassigned. But the devil's in the details. You're right, Shalom.
I don't want to throw a wrench in the works, but I can provide a little more color to that. The unfortunate reality of the situation is that based on the structure of California's government, if we were to, in great detail, outline exactly what the money can and cannot be spent on, it's considered a special tax, and then it would need 2/3 in order to pass. And with the immense amount of resources that our corporate opposition has, that's not a political viability. So we are going to need to make sure that we hold our elected officials accountable once this is passed, and that they put the money towards the things that you know that your community needs, that will serve your community best. But our position is we'd rather have that revenue than continue to have communities that need funding be starved of that funding, right? So the organizing needs to continue, and we have a really broad coalition that will ensure that the funds are spent to the benefit of the community and not in a punitive way.